Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with Learning Sciences International. My name is Lee Manley, Director of District Partnerships with Learning Sciences, and I'm glad to have you join us this morning. Today's topic is on teacher induction. But before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to go through a few quick housekeeping items. Due to the size of the audience, you are in listen-only mode, meaning we cannot hear you, but we do want this to be an interactive webinar. So if you look at your GoToWebinar control panel, you'll see there is a chat box. So please type in your questions throughout the presentation, and at the end of the webinar, there will be a brief Q&A session where we will answer those questions. If we happen not to get to all the questions, we will certainly follow up after the webinar is done. If you run into any technical issues, you can put a message in the chat box, or you can go to gotowebinar.com and click on the support tab, where you'll see a contact support link at the bottom of the page. If you look at your control panel, you see a couple of handouts. You'll see a PDF copy of the slides that were being used today, and as well as a brochure on the Growth Tracker product, the software platform that we're going to describe. And we're also recording this webinar, so you will receive a follow-up email, and you'll be able to go back and reference this at a later time with you or your colleagues. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lee Manley, and I'm from Learning Sciences International. I am Director of District Partnerships, and I'd like to thank you for joining our webinar this morning. First of all, I want to make sure that everyone can hear my voice and see my screen. You will notice a chat box in the GoToWebinar control panel. If you could just click on that you can hear my voice and see my screen, I would appreciate that. Great, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Today's topic is on teacher induction. And before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to go through a few quick housekeeping items. Due to the size of the audience, you are in listen-only mode, meaning we cannot hear you, but we want this to be interactive. So if you look at the control panel, just as you did just now, you'll see that chat box. Please put your questions in there, and we will answer those at the end during a brief Q&A session. If we don't get to all of your questions, we will certainly follow up with you afterwards. If you run into any technical issues, you can put that in the chat box as well. You can also go to gotowebinar.com and click on the support tab, where you'll see a support link at the bottom of the page. If you look at your control panel, you also see a handout section where you can download a PDF copy of the slides that we're using, and you can also access a growth tracker brochure, one of the pieces of software that we're going to reference in our presentation. We're also going to record this, so you can go back and reference it later, and you can share the link with colleagues at your convenience. So with that, we will get started. And as I mentioned, I am Director of District Partnerships with Learning Sciences International. And one of the things that drives our mission as a company is how we help both teachers and leaders. And we're focusing on teacher induction this morning. But it's important to note one of our core beliefs, and a lot of the research that drives our product development. And that's very simple. You see this quote from one of our research partners, Dr. Marzano. We believe the single most influential component of an effective school are the individual teachers within that school. And in that's what drives our research and development. And you'll see that's what drives our, specifically in terms of teacher induction, how we go about that and how we help schools, and we're going to lay out some of those tips here in just a moment. So about teacher induction, Well, it should be more than just sporadic training, kind of hit and miss training on different topics. It should be comprehensive, so it should cover a gamut of things that teachers are experiencing, maybe issues they have. So comprehensive in nature. It also should be coherent. So a coherent plan of topics and subject matter that's going to be most relevant for teachers in their, especially in their first year, to support them. It also should be sustained, meaning it's not just the first day of induction or the first week of school, but it should be sustained throughout each and every year in supporting teachers. So that brings us to teacher turnover, and I know because I work with lots of schools here in the central United States, and this is an ongoing issue, especially some of you that might be in rural schools, where there's just not a lot of teachers sometimes to choose from during the interview process, especially as you get into some of those more specialty subject areas. So the number one reason why teachers leave, and you guessed it, it's the lack of support. Sometimes teachers in feeling that that isolation, that maybe no one quite understands what they're going through, or the issues that they're running into. They don't quite know how to address them. So it's important, as we laid out there at the beginning, in terms of a coherent and sustained, systematic way to help teachers and really monitor their job satisfaction and monitor the issues that they're running into, so that we can be there to help them. So here's some more statistics that I found that are pretty powerful. 20% of all new teachers leave within their first 3 years, and further, 50% of new teachers in urban schools leave within the first 5 years. So that's part of the research that's out there, independent research. You see from the NEA that drives a lot of this and how we set this up to help teachers. And what's been borne out through research is that districts with a plan, a comprehensive plan, and not just a one and done type of an approach, but year-long induction programs, have less turnover and better trained teachers. So that brings us to the question, how can you make this happen? And I'm very proud to work with a very talented group of researchers and practitioners that we do help make this happen, and a variety of resources that one of which I'll mention here in just a moment. But first, let's walk through some tips that we've found that are vital to the induction process. First of all, tip number 1: address the needs of all learners. In this case, our teacher learners. So differentiate, and this means celebrating those differences between teachers. It's also in terms of learning, we all, of course, don't learn the same. We don't learn at the same rate. Sometimes it takes, sometimes people it might take them a little less time. Sometimes I need more time to process. So differentiating in how we're learning. Research-based instructional strategies. And as I worked with one school that often said, if we're going to spend our time and resources on strategies, we want of course to use research-based strategies that are proven to work, which is very important. That teachers are working on the right thing. They're doing the correct work. Infuse information that will support the first-year teacher. So the point on this, of course, is first-year teachers, they might have a unique set of needs for more veteran teachers. Maybe it's more of an emphasis on classroom management, maybe the physical layout of the classroom, maybe planning. How do I approach my plan in maybe in a standards-driven classroom? So that's a little bit different from some of our veteran teachers, but in order for those brand new teachers to feel that support, this is critical. So tip number 2, creating a safe learning environment. What do we mean by that? Well, first of all, you see the key word here, non-evaluative. Monitor growth in a non-evaluative manner. So this is not any type of a score. This is not any type of an evaluation of where a teacher is. But again, it's to support them and really understand where they are as they're starting, and to help them grow in an individual manner. Encourage teachers to inspect their learning and determine their own areas of growth. And this is very important, kind of an individualized path, if you will, in terms of growth, and encouraging teachers to explore and find out what's going to be most relevant for them, maybe what's going to be most relevant for their cohort of brand new teachers as they go through induction. Strategies that they see are going to be the most impactful for their students as they're starting their career or starting at a different school. Tip number 3, this is all about providing support. And you see here coaches, mentors, opportunities for peer collaboration. And the box here, the grid that you're seeing, this is research from Joyce and Showers that's very powerful, and this also greatly affects how we work with schools. This extensive research that was done in terms of how teachers learn, and most importantly, how they transfer what they've learned into their practice. And I'm sure, like many of you, I work with schools that they get a level of frustration because maybe they're spending their resources on professional development or books, and then they go to the classroom and their frustration comes from, well, I don't see a change. I don't see what we've learned put into practice. And you see the different levels here in terms of the far left, the staff development column, theory, which is great, and you see that 10%, which is widely cited in all walks of life in terms of theory and what we retain. You see 0% in terms of transfer, that implementation in the classroom. Demonstrations, now our knowledge is going up, our skill is going up slightly, very little transfer. The same for practice and feedback, a big bump in knowledge and skill, very low in terms of transfer. Well, the bottom there that you see, that's the power, and that's the power of peer coaching and collegial support. Again, not in an evaluative way. This is not scored, but I feel that support from my peers, maybe from an instructional coach, that collegial support that they recognize. Hey, I'm just learning this strategy, so they know that up front, that they are the brand new teacher is implementing a strategy. Now tell me, how can I take the next step? How can I increase my level of implementation to ultimately we see the impact with students? So that does take some time. And again, back to the power of a coherent and sustained induction program. that supports teachers every step of the way, and not just the first week or first month of school, but throughout the first year, into the second year, etc. Tip number 4, balancing the cognitive load. So brand new teachers especially, they're learning lots of new things, lots of policies, just to name one. How do we do things at your school? So keeping those additional responsibilities in mind, policies or meetings, or how do I work with others? How do I interact with the school leadership? What information do they need to know? So keeping that in mind, of course, is important with everything they have to learn. Deliver professional development in small chunks, and this is one of the things that has been a great help for teachers in a systematic approach. Whatever the approach, we found, of course, that teachers can only drink in so much at a time. That's why those, just as the students in the classroom learn, that's why the small chunks are so important, so the teachers can actually process, retain, and have some time to understand as they go into the implementation, which brings up my next point. So allowing time to implement before moving on, and that's important because what we've seen from research is sometimes teachers might learn something and they implement it, and well, that didn't work as well as I'd thought. I don't really know how to improve on that, but guess what? We're moving on to something else. So I didn't have time to really implement to see the effect that it had with my students. So that's critical in terms of that time for teachers to process and implement before moving on to maybe another strategy. Our next tip, number 5, providing tools for support. Provide learning resources and reference materials, and this is one of the things that we do very well here at LSI in meeting the needs of teachers and their learning, and specifically with resources that are written with teachers in mind. We also have, for example, quick reference guides with teachers in mind that are great help in their planning. And what kind of lessons am I planning? And maybe in a standards-based classroom. So those are important. That we offer those. There's also other companies out there. You probably have some in your school as well. But it's important that the teachers do have those reference materials that they can go back and learn more as they have questions. Sharing examples of best practice, and this, I think of this in a couple of different ways. We have a system that has a rich resource library. The growth tracker, which I'll show you, also has a library of resources, of videos, and teachers, it increases their comfort level when they see another teacher implementing a strategy and doing it well in the classroom, because we all want to know, well, what does that look like when a teacher is doing that? What does that sound like? The next level, of course, is best practices that are in my school. So that's the exciting part, and that's where we reference this many times as building capacity in your school or your district. So you have those teachers that are performing well. They're using research-based strategies. You can see it in the impact of students. Maybe students taking more ownership of their learning, more rigor in the classroom. So those best practices are important. And then this last one, talking about environment, creating an environment which collaboration can easily take place. And I think about this in a couple of different ways, both face-to-face collaboration, which is important, which could be in the form of a PLC, could be in the form of a teacher induction group that we're sharing with one another, and obviously that we have that time set aside when we do get together and collaborate. I also think of this in a virtual sense. So as teachers are, as they're learning, as they're growing, and they have important aspects which they want to contribute to the group, important things that they've learned, maybe to save other teachers some time in terms of what's been the best approach for them, and the opportunity to easily do that in a virtual sense. We have a platform that you can easily do that the learning does not stop when we're not meeting, but it continues. So how can we help? And I mentioned we have I'm privileged to work with a really talented group of staff developers who have been practitioners in the classroom and in school districts, and this is we offer professional development on site. We also have a new tool called the Growth Tracker, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview, and we should have, I think I'll have a minute maybe to go into the system itself and show you a couple of the screens. But the purpose really of this is to many of the things that we've laid out. First of all, to address the needs of all learners. You see a screenshot here of different strategies that a teacher can focus on, but it's very impactful as schools that I'm working with, and even states are taking on that approach of individualized professional development. And what does that entail? What does that look like? Well, this is one of the big things in terms of, for example, a strategy that maybe you are a brand new teacher. Maybe you are communicating high expectations for all students, and as an instructional coach or a peer or a mentor, I know exactly where you are in that process. And I see, well, maybe you're just in the learning phase. Well, that helps my feedback. If you state, well, I'm at the impact stage, and it is having an impact with students, then that helps me a great deal because my expectations are higher, and I'm expecting to see that impact with students. I'm creating a safe learning environment. So this particular system is designed for teachers, and it's administrators, principals. They can see reports on activity, but they cannot see individual comments, look and learns, as we call them, that have been done in the classroom. So it's a safe place for teachers to be open and honest about, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I would like some help from someone. Specifically, I want them to come into my classroom, offer me some ideas and how I can do a better job in a certain area. Providing support, and this goes back to what we started our webinar this morning in terms of that support for our new teachers as they're starting. It's a difficult time that they're learning a lot, and this is critical that they're starting in a systematic way, in a coherent way. They are plugged into a group. That group is they're supporting one another, encouraging one another, celebrating success as teachers are learning and they're seeing the difference in the classroom. Providing tools for support. We mentioned some of these tools. The Growth Tracker is certainly a tool, and there's lots of other books, videos, all kinds of tools to help brand new teachers in meeting their needs where they are and helping them with that path to get better. And finally, balancing the cognitive load with everything that new teachers, everything that's coming at them. It can be overwhelming. So a systematic way that they can go at a pace that that's going to be best for them in their group as they're learning. So I'm going to show you some screenshots here, and if we have a minute here at the end, I'm going to actually go into the Growth Tracker tool live. But it's really a powerful way that teachers are, we take them through the process of how they learn. They have to first learn, then they need to implement in the classroom, monitor the effect with students, and then get to that student impact. And that is that's a research-based approach that really helps, as I address that those points up front, how teachers learn, how they get comfortable, how they process that information, and how it's implemented in the classroom, so that they can follow through on that cycle and receive support at all points along the way. And these are what we call look and learns, to where teachers are, if they have a chance to conduct a look and learn on a peer, maybe an instructional coach conducts a look and learn, and they have a group of collaborators that they're working with, that they can see in the system, that they can invite into their group, and then finally they have courses. So it's really neat for brand new teachers because we have a recommended track for their learning based on the fact that they are brand new, that they're learning. So that's, you see here in this, as we talked about, the chunks of information, approximate minutes that they would spend in each chunk. Very, very feasible in terms of the, as we talked about, the cognitive load. And teachers also have the chance to earn continuing ed credits. So this is just this is a screenshot of what a teacher would print out at the end to celebrate their success in individual strategy. So you can see here, helping students record and represent knowledge. Here's the modules completed in the dates. So this, if I know many times there's some district discretion in terms of how they award these credits, but this is a great feature as to recognize teachers in their learning and the work that they're doing. I also wanted to mention microcredentials, and maybe this is not as familiar with you as continuing ed credits, but it is one of the things that you will hear about in 2017, I'm quite certain, because many of the states that I personally work with, this is a priority at the state level, as we talked about individualized PD, and as we talked about a sustained coherent system for new teachers. But you think of the future, if you will, in your vision of how you work with teachers and how they grow and develop. So part of that vision would be micro-credentials. So as teachers are learning and they are implementing strategies, and you see that impact with students, teachers actually have the chance to earn a micro-credential in specific strategies. And the way this is done through the growth tracker is someone else, the teacher, puts in what they've accomplished, and then someone goes into the classroom to check and to monitor that it's actually being implemented. So when they get to that highest level, that impact stage with students, and they've completed all of the tasks associated with a given element, that's when they earn a micro-credential. And I have the picture here of a trophy. That's what it would look like in the system. But it's a very powerful tool as you think about that capacity within your school. And teachers working on these micro-credentials. So the vision for the future, now you've got some resident experts, if you will. So where a teacher, a brand new teacher, you can go let's walk down the hall because this teacher, Mr. Manley, is earned a micro-credential in monitoring student learning. And just go for a few minutes and watch how he does this. Watch the techniques that he uses to monitor where students are. So that's a powerful point to consider as you're thinking longer term, and how this could ultimately help your school. So our main points that we covered: train, support, and retain our new teachers through a systematic process of induction. And again, if you do have questions regarding what we're covering, please put them into the chat box. And I am going to pause my screen just a moment here and actually get into the system. I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what it looks like. So here is the growth tracker, and this would be my view as a teacher. Expand this, make this a little bit bigger for you. So you see the process here, my focus strategies, and as I'm going through to the impact with students, learning, implementing, monitoring, and finally the impact with students. Each of these slices of the pie, if you will, are areas that I have noted as accomplished. So this is extremely valuable for the support that I get. So if I have, if I'm stating here, just visually, a peer or instructional coach can see, well, Lee has accomplished everything through the impact phase. So my expectations are really high versus if I am just got done with the learning stage and I just haven't even got to the implement stage. Well, that's going to help the feedback as well. So as I open these up, you can see the different phases. I can view a strategy. So this is monitoring, and you see I've got some resources up here in terms of discussions, student work, and I can request, one of the latest additions that we've added is request a look and learn. So if I have completed all of these phases that I have marked as accomplished, and I want maybe an instructional coach or a peer to come check it out what I've done, because maybe I'm planning to do that on Thursday. So come into the classroom. Let me know what you think. Give me some feedback. So you can see the different the things that I've marked as accomplished as I'm learning and implementing. So I mentioned courses, and you see maybe we have a track here for teacher induction. And you see this could also maybe be a new teacher. Maybe this is second-year teachers that they could be studying core instruction. So I'll just open one of these up to give you a view. Here are the modules that we progress through. I happen to be the PLC leader. Here are my members, and we work through these in a systematic way. We enter our thoughts, our discussion points, and I'll open one of these just to give you a glimpse. But you can see we're all working together, and the green check marks are everyone has accomplished this. So as the PLC leader, I'm monitoring this. Have we all done this? Are we ready to go to the next phase? And this is one of the points that comes up sometimes, whether it's a new teacher induction group, whether it's a PLC. Sometimes teachers maybe they don't go to all of the meetings. Maybe there's just a few that feel that they're shouldered with much of the burden of the learning and keeping the PLC going. So this is a great tool in a virtual sense, whether I'm able to make the physical meeting or not. I'm still accountable to my group. I'm still accountable to for my own learning and going in there to for discussion points and contributing to the group, even if I can't go there. So that's just a glimpse in terms of what the learning would look like in a group sense. So there are others. There's resources that the teachers can look at. There's reports that that a school leader can look at in terms of activity. So they can't see the comments and detailed information about teachers, but they can see what our teachers are working on and the progress that's being made. So that's just a brief look at the growth tracker. And again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. I'd love to help answer those in our remaining time. I'll go to the collaborator section. So these are my collaborators, and you see, as we were talking about Microcredentials, Mike Evans, he earned a Microcredential. So I can go in here and see he earned it on monitoring. So we'll open up monitoring, and he went through and accomplished all of these actions, and as well as an instructional coach went in and saw these actually implemented in the classroom, and so he achieved that microcredential for monitoring, and now he can help others, other new teachers. So again, if you have a question or comment on what we've covered, please enter that into the chat box. Okay, I'm getting some questions here in terms of, okay, the platform. Yes, this is browser based, so meaning that any device, whether it's an iPad, a laptop, a Chromebook, if it has a browser, then you can certainly use it. So that's a good question. I'm getting a question on the time frame in terms of the minutes that I showed you on the course, and those are approximations. Some teachers are going to work faster than others. Some might take a little bit longer, but those are just approximations on the minutes. Also, I see a question on discussions and student work. So let's go back to, I'll go back to that screen. Also got a question, would the system work for my off teachers? And it looks like, yes, in a rural district. Yes, this would be fantastic, because you could structure this, and there's, as we have seen across the country, more and more non-traditional setups in schools, meaning there are, especially in a rural area, where we could maybe pool all of the a group of math teachers or science teachers that also happen to be brand new teachers, and they're going through induction together. But it would be more of a virtual sense. So no, they don't have to all be in the same place. Another question on, could this be utilized for all teachers? Absolutely, and that's the beauty. One of the researchers that we work with, of course, often says, the first step in helping students in their learning is understanding where they are. And that's at the heart of this, to see where exactly are you in your learning, and that's helpful in terms of as we go into the classroom, and we're looking at that impact of with students and offering feedback in a non-evaluative way and how teachers can improve. So let me go back and try to answer that that question in terms of discussion. I'll show you. Go back into my course that I've started. And you can see the different steps here that we've numbered. And this is a great time to, we'll open up here. This is a discussion, and these are questions that are asked of teachers in the group. So what kind of technique would you use in your classroom? Why did you choose that technique? What teacher actions does this require? What will you expect from your students? So these are, I can enter my response here, and then you can see what's already been entered by other teachers. How are you planning to do this? In this particular case, the technique that you would use in your classroom. So these are very helpful. There's resources along the way to help, and this one I can click on techniques. I can see, watch it in the classroom. What does this look like? You see the video camera here. What does this look like in the classroom? So we can all watch that. Back to the question about proximity to the school, or if there's a rural area, we set up a group of maybe through an association or collaborating with a neighboring districts in terms of new teacher induction. So those are helpful tools. And I want to make sure that I'm answering your question. So if you do have yeah, and this is a good question on, is there a student side so that students can track their own progress? That's an interesting question, and there's also, we have a sister program called the Standards Tracker that we don't have time to get into at this point, but please let us know if you would like us to contact you on that. But that is a tool that we've loaded all of the state standards so that teachers can build a standards-based lesson. They can use learning targets that we have entered. They can use success criteria that we have entered. They can enter their own. When we work with some districts that have their own customized standards could be for different subject areas, but that's a way that within the realm of student autonomy, where teachers can project the success criteria, where students are tracking where are you in your learning. Teachers getting that feedback from students in the form of evidence, so that they can help them where they are. They know where the class is, and they can help all students get to the learning target. So it looks like we are 1 minute shy of 9:45, and I don't see any more questions at this time. But if you do have more questions, feel free to contact us. We'd be happy to help you, and we have directors at all points in the United States ready to help and offer some ideas in terms of implementation and professional development to help your particular school with what you need. So Thanks for your questions. Thanks for joining us this morning, and hope you have a good rest of the week. Thanks.